So, what we can therefore say is that the 64 years is a mixed grill of the high and the low, a mixture of activities here and there, you know, and effects here and there as well. In any case, we can say that we are happy that at least we are witnessing today, in spite of whatever that we have lost in terms of progression. So, but having said that, uh, of you in celebrating the day, and I'm sure we all listened to the president's speech this morning. Did we all monitor the speech this morning?
I did not, sir.
Well, yeah, I listened to it, sir.
Yes, sir. We stayed up.
You
We listened
did?
to it. Yes, sir.
I did. Well, sir, if you
Okay.
ask me, I think ours is actually a mixed bag, of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
And the ugly.
Yes, in
Yes,
the
sir.
sense that there are times that you have a perception as if we have a direction that is promising, and then you find along the line that we're backsliding. So it is like the president's speech today that some people were even criticizing when he was talking about this youth conference. I think some people view it as a mere diversionary tactics, because I expected that a pronouncement on this youth conference would have even been initiated right from when this last end bad governance strike had ended. That's when they would have called it, but they went to sleep. If they hold the conference now, the year is finished. The year is finished. If there are certain things that will require budgetary inputs, they will tell you till next year. It has not been captured in the next year's budget until the upper year. So it's just some kind of vicious cycle that they just want to divert people's attention. That's my own personal
opinion. So, okay, Umar and Matthias were trying to say something.
Yes, sir. I think on the whole, Nigeria appears to be a scam, sir.
It's a scam.
Run by scammers for scammers.
How can you call Nigeria a scam?
Nigeria is a scam.
He has the right to his opinion. Let's hear him out, sir.
This is the only country we have. Just find another word.
Let's hear him
Matthias briefly before we commence our activity.
Yes,
Matthias, you have the floor. Let me hear you.
Yes, sir. This is not the Nigeria we expected about 50 years ago when I started working. We looked at a Nigeria that will compete with the rest of the world. But look at Nigeria today. We are just like dregs. When I went to secondary school, Indians, Chinese, Germans, Americans were competing to come and work in Nigeria. And what is it today? Today we trek across the Sahara Desert to go to Europe, go to everywhere. We are rejected in most countries. We are looked down in spite of our resources. That's why I say it's a scam. Individuals who have become leaders, the only solution to every problem is just to increase the price of fuel, right from time. I started using a vehicle in 1976. I was filling my 404 with 2 naira 50 kobo. To fill a 404, a 404 car that time used to cost 2,800. And look at where we have found ourselves. So I don't think we are a serious nation, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, Matthias, I just liken your speech, your talk this morning to the one that my senior colleague in the Department of Political Science here, one professor, will say that everything in Nigeria is a scam. So when you mentioned that, I was taken off guard. I say, have I produced another another of my senior colleagues in this class? Okay, well, you have the right to your opinion to call it a scam, but certainly, yes, there are quite a number of things that are done in such a manner that will leave a lot of us wondering whether we have a working system in the country. Because if you have a working system, you are expected to, look up to something in your country. Look up to certain policies, certain activities that anytime you want to reach it, you will always go and reach it. And there are ways and means, there are styles that will enable you to certainly reach it. That way, you have hope in the system. But in a system where everything goes haphazard, any other person can take advantage of that. And that is the extent to which it has become actually like a scam, as you say. To that extent, you cannot tell who is responsible, who is not responsible, who is giving, who is not giving, and who has access and who does not have access. In that system, you tend to, have no option but to call it what you seem to be calling it. So I will not totally fault you in that regard. In any case, we still celebrate that we have a country. The only thing is that we have to work hard to fix it. Whatever that is going wrong, we need to put our heads and our hands on the deck and ensure that we get it fixed. Have to speak out to those in leadership, and perhaps part of it is understanding what goes on in the system before you can, be able to speak out and address some of it. And that's why this course is very, very essential. The political economy of public policy is quite essential. We need to understand the links between the economy and policy. And so we appreciate you all for this witnessing the day. I didn't monitor the speech. I didn't watch it, but I read excerpts of it online. And I think the idea of a youth confab, as was pointed out by Noel or something like that, which is part of the speech, I thought is coming in as an afterthought. And these are the things that should have been used to address the yearnings of this category of people. As a new government coming in, the government of President Tinubu, as a new government coming in, part of the analysis should have been what happened to NSAS. Why was there NSAS? Why did the youth have to take to the street in such a large magnitude? We'll look at also what preceded it through the elections. These are some of the things that a government would have properly articulated in its agenda, so that when it was seeking election, it should have been brought out clearly to tell that, look, we have a program. This is how we engage this youthful category. And then this is how we move forward with them. But that was not, and therefore we had the issues that we had. Having said that, hello, are you all with me? Hello?
We're with you, sir.
We're with you, sir.
Good. So having said that, let's get back to business. Last class, we had good discussions on the opening game of this course, and we discussed issues around political economy. And we tried to conceptualize political economy. And we said political economy is the issues that have the connections between the politics and the economy. If you want to expand it, you can talk about the laws governing issues about resource distribution, consumption, and exchange. It has to do with the market conditions and other things. And then, of course, we brought in the ideas of the mode of production, which we said was characterized by the means of production and what? And relations of production. And that these were key to understanding the society and understanding the structure of governance. And that things that go into the means of production indicates the issues about ownership, while the issues about relations of production also tells so much about the process, of production. These are key issues that characterize conduct within the production process. There is no discussion of political economy without a good understanding of the production process, which combines both the means and the relations of production. So these are just by way of a highlight were the issues that we discussed in the last class. So going forward today, I want us to look at public policy. Public policy. What do we understand? All of us have been, a lot of us have either been part of one policy or the other, or beneficiaries of one policy or the other. And then, of course, we are recipients of policy rules, or we are ourselves drafters of the policy process as well, or policy framework, as the case may be. So please, can you educate me whether there is a fair understanding of what the policy system, what public policy entails? Can anybody just volunteer to give a few minutes of short explanation of the policy, what a policy entails?
Okay. Can I try?
Okay, Matthias, you can go ahead.
Okay, this is
public policy.
No, Matthias has the floor now. I can take you later.
Public policies are government solutions to public problems. And
Very
public
good.
problems are those problems that affect the generality of the populace, which individuals cannot usually solve. For example, if a man is driving his car, his fuel gets finished, he picks a gallon from his boot, goes to buy fuel and fill his car. That's a personal problem. But if there's fuel scarcity in the of Abuja, for example, it will require government intervention to restore supplies, either by requesting for more supplies to Abuja or get supplies from other areas. That requires government intervention. So government policies are policies that solve public problems.
Hello,
And
madam.
in
Go ahead.
sir, yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I said government policies are government solutions to public problems
Public
because they are the ones that, yes, sir, they are the ones that are mandated to solve such problems because individuals cannot solve such problems, either in
That's
terms of
true.
laws, in terms of uh, provisions, or in terms of presidential order, to solve such problems. Those are government policies, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Eze, can I hear you now?
Okay, Prof.
Hello.
Public policy, just as Oga Matthias said, is actions and decisions taken by, or plans taken by government to improve the quality of life for her citizenry, which which involve addressing the public problems to achieve a societal goals. That is it, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much. I think somehow you have all captured the key essences, in the public policy. They are just government actions or inactions. That is what it does or does not do, to solve public issues, public problems. Generally, we speak about public policies and programs. They are made up of decisions. Usually, they are decisions of government, to address the yearnings of the people. They have some basic characteristics. Maybe we can talk about some of the characteristics to say that, yes, virtually all policies are decisions of government. And then virtually all policies are characterized by setting up of a framework, that is, they occur in a particular order. There is a framework for it, that is system of formulation and implementation, And of course, the public policies are generally involved in what you can call exchanges, or you can say interactions between parties, that is, groups that are involved, or if you like, what we commonly call stakeholders these days, the interactions among stakeholders, so that they will address the grievances, the needs, the requirements, and the complaints of various groups, individuals, and institutions. Yeah? So these are some of the things. Besides this, public policies also characterize the external interests, also accommodates external interests, reviews external interests in such a policy. And so the policy is not of just those within, but also those without. So that while designing it, we are not supposed to be neglecting some of these requirements, and therefore we can refer to public policy as a strategic document, that explains what government plans to do or is, working out to do. Sometimes public policy could include some detailing of financial involvement. Include that. But one key thing that we cannot neglect or we should not forget about public policy is the fact that it is one process that grants its legitimacy, it grants government actions legitimacy. So that when government comes out and it is implementing whatever that it is doing, it will now be able to say that, look, this is on, let's say, petrol or on road construction or on economic development or on healthcare or on, agricultural development and things like that. So these are the basic formations. These are some of the basic characteristics that you can refer to when discussing public policy. So, if we want to be, very clear, we can say that public policy is one policy, is one system that also recognizes the roles and activities of various organizations under it or institutions under its ambit, under its control. So all of these are embedded in what we can refer public policy. I hope we are getting it this far. Yes, Matthias, you want to say something?
Affirming that we are following you.
Hello?
Sir. I said we are following you, sir.
Yeah?
We are with you, sir.
Okay. Okay,
Yes,
I thought your hand is up. You wanted to say something. I can see your hand. You are raising your hand. Okay. So by that saying, we can say that public policy generally grants legitimacy to any government in place. It is the reason why government exists, at least to show that, yes, we are the one with the mandate. Yes, we are the ones that have the necessary things to conduct a government. And these are how we intend to proceed with conducting this government and the activities of government. And through that, government shows exactly what it can do and what it cannot do on particular issues. And then it can also, using public policy, identify some of the key, areas that it is focusing by way of prioritizing, so that you can easily tell how government intends to proceed with its activities within a particular sector. Within a particular sector. Let's say if it is agriculture, whatever government produces in terms of policy in agriculture will show by way of the kind of programs that are unleashed, and over what time, over what period will certain programs last. These are supposed to be contained totally in what can be a government policy. So the government framework, policy framework, it gives government action legality, gives government action legitimacy. That is because it has passed. Usually, it goes through some legal processing. Some of it, particularly now that we're in a democratic order, most of it gets to pass through legislation. It gets to go through some legislation before it comes out. Some could derive from the legislation to be expanded, to be explained further, through some other, like what you now refer to as bylaws. Some could be like that. Some could be enunciated in form of programs. Programs do usually come out as fallout of policies. Fallouts from policies, they now get, tend to be brought out in clear terms to be able to, explain a policy, so that policy can have its own, its own system, its own mind, by its expression. Hello? 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 Hello?
Sir,
Am I there with
sir,
you?
I'm hearing. Yes, sir.
Okay. So these are the issues that seem to be contained in policy. What are the types or systems involved in public policy? There are basically we used to refer to three main types of public policy. Number one, we have the distributive policies. Then we have the regulatory policies. And of course, we can also talk about the redistributive policies. When we talk about the distributive policies, we usually refer to government's approach as to how it plans to allocate to various sectors, whether various sections of the society, in terms of whether it is education, whether it is agriculture, or whether it is health or security, in various orders. How, all of it are being distributed to the generality of the community or of the society, so that everybody looks up to getting something, through this kind of distributive policies. So in distributive policies, you can refer to it as a dispersal or as an incremental dispersal of government goods and services to different segments of the society, different segments of the population in a society, either to individuals or to groups or to institutions or to organizations, as the case may be. So these are the key things involved in distributive policies. And then, of course, it also tells that using this style, it means that it is something that occurs on continuous basis, is continual, that government has already arranged it, packaged it in such a way that everyone always looks up to his own turn in the society. That since it is distributive, you are sure that one day, if it is not your own turn this time, it may be your own turn next time, and that in that process, it continues. It will continue in that process until such a time that it, gets to you and gets past you and goes to another sector in that order. So through this process, you see government's transparency, government's openness, government's fairness, in ensuring that there is an open distribution to virtually all, virtually everybody, so that everybody tends to benefit in this process. So generally not constituting anything that is conflictual. That is, there may not be any conflict in this kind of system. I hope you are following me.
Yes, sir.
I hope we are all following.
Yes, sir.
So this is distributive policies, public policies. But when you want to refer to regulatory public policy.
So I'm sorry, sir. Will it be right to say classify, the approaches of budgets and say our policies on elections in this country to be among these examples of distributive policies?
Yes, of course, distributive policies. No, well, election policies are policies that, yes, can be termed distributive, such that everybody looks up to it and everybody exercises it. There is no competition there, and that everybody will benefit from it. Everybody will exercise the election anyway.
And then that of budget, people are always looking for it. Whether that of budget, whether
no,
they,
that of budget,
they work,
that of budget,
they work, yes,
that of budget
yes,
can be that of budget can be termed. Yes, it is like that, but usually budgets tend to be regulatory. I hope you get the point. So that it tells that some people will gain, some people will not gain, will lose. Sometimes budget can look like it is what do you call it? Distributive. Because it tends to share out. Is that not so?
And it's also continuous, sir. Yes,
and then it's also continuous.
Continuous.
Yes, it's also continuous. it tends to share out. But one thing that makes budget also regulatory is the fact that because of a plural nature of the society in Nigeria, for example,
Yes, sir.
because of the plural nature, there is competition on who gets aspects of the budget. And so some people will lose while some people will gain in the exercise of budget. Although that too, we can be hopeful that it will eventually get to you. I hope you get the point. Are you following me?
Yes, it's clear,
that
sir.
It will eventually get to you. To that extent, it is distributive. But
Okay.
to the extent that it is competitive because of the plural nature of the society, it becomes regulatory. So that using the budget, you try to control it and ensure that you can wait. Because of the competition, the resources cannot go around everybody. So please, one group can wait, another group will take it. That could be that is in a regulatory policy. But essentially, we can say that a budget is distributive. I hope you get the point.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we can say that it is distributive. So, in the case of regulatory policies, these are policies that are presented in order to ensure the control of the activities of various groups, various organizations, various settings, within the society. And these regulatory policies are usually designed by government in order to ensure that there are no excesses, by certain institutions or agencies in carrying out their activities. These institutions or agencies may not necessarily be government institutions, but they are people or their bodies or their systems who carry out their activities and who are likely to impact the people within a particular country, and therefore require to be regulated. For example, the regulation on electricity, provision of electricity in a society, provision of transport, and all those things like aviation authorities, aviation companies that needs to be regulated so that we could, we could control their activities in order for them not to impact negatively on the people. So, as I said, they are government's efforts to control the activities of certain agencies. And then we can refer to these efforts as efforts that target particular sectors. And usually in doing this, certain conflicts could arise because it is between those who provide services against those who are getting or are using the services. Those who are using the services. So generally, those who are benefiting from the services would want to have the best in terms of maximization of costs and things like that. Maximization of benefits as against their cost. Yes. But for those who are providing, they would want to provide in terms of benefiting in terms of maximum cost. Gain from the services that. So that is usually the situation. So if we are talking about the regulatory policies, we are referring to a form of control of people who have certain services to render, or agencies that have services to render. And of course, in that style, we can refer to situations where people, members of the society, are at the other end of the divide. That is the other side, that is the beneficiaries that require to be protected. Yes, Noel, you are raising your hand. Yes. Noel.
I hope I'm not too, yes, sir. I hope I'm not too quick in trying to. No? My mind is running around to find out which of these organizations that can fall under this regulatory policy group. Is it right to now place agencies like, or commissions like the NCC, National Communications Commission, that
regulate the activities. That regulate the activities of service providers.
In the telecom sector. Then you have a Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission.
Regulatory agency.
Yes.
Yeah, so many.
So is it, yes, even CBN regulating the activities of banks.
Of financial institutions.
Financial institutions, banks, and other financial institutions. All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, you are right. You are very correct. Government will usually make the policy and ensure that if it makes the policy, sometimes it creates an agency, it creates a body that manages such a policy, to ensure that it is properly handled and controlled. There are commissions, there are regulatory bodies, that tend to, control these bodies, and those are quite key in the conduct of regulatory policies. Any other question? Okay, the third is the redistributive policies. Note that we had a distributive policies, and now we are having a redistributive policies. Here we are referring to transfer of resources from a particular group to another group. Are you following me? Transfer of resources refers to, moving moving certain goods from one group to another group. That is to say, a situation where resources get to move from a point of concentration to point of dispersal. Did you follow me?
Yes, hello? Sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, so sir. I'm referring to a situation where, yes, equity, tries to ensure equity amongst the people, so that it in cases of taxations, for example, where taxations are progressive, so that those that have, it will be taken from them. Those that have more in the society, such progressive tax should be taken from them to take care of those that do not have, so that to a great degree there can be a sort of a balance between the two groups. I hope you are following. So
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So because this transfer entails removing from a group and giving to another group, it tends to generate some, conflict, some tension, because definitely those from whom you are taking are not always, agreeing with your plans. They are not always agreeing with you in the way you slam the taxation on them and then give to others outside outside their group. So if you take from a particular group and give others, while while those that you are giving are rejoicing, those that you are taking from are lamenting. So, so it generally it creates tension, but it is all in the bid for government to ensure some form of equity. That is to say, it is trying to create a balanced society where everybody can have hope of gaining process. Yes, Noel, your hand up.
Yeah, yes,
Your hand is up.
sir. Yes, the point you have raised just now, sir, has given me a strong eye opener in respect of what is happening in the politics of the United States of America currently. It is generally been viewed that there's some kind of stereotyping that has emerged now. Donald Trump is largely viewed as one that is supporting, the large multi-billionaire bureaucrats, whereas Kamala Harris is viewed to be supporting the middle income and then the downtrodden. So it is generally being perceived that Trump coming in is simply going to be protecting his billionaire friends, and then those that are downtrodden will not get the largesse that is supposed to be that's supposed to come down to the generality of populace in the economy of America. Is that the perspective we're looking at now? In terms of one having a strong opinion in respect of resources to be held by the rich, and then the other one say no, it should come down and then benefit the majority of them. I don't know if I'm right, sir.
Well, in order to, I want to give you, I want to respond to it, but I would like you to also reshape, try to present this again within the Nigerian context. I want you to present this within the Nigerian.
Yes, sir. It is actually also playing out here, because the present government is largely believed. The present government is largely believed to be. I remember just recently, the present government set up a committee, more or less like an economic think tank, and only the names of the multi-billionaires in Nigeria were mentioned and brought into that committee. So there is no how that such a caliber of persons coming in to manage our national patrimony that will not be bringing in their own personal interests first to the forefront.
So you can see that you have virtually presented answers to yourself. That in this discussions, in this analogy that you have just given, you can see that when resources are concentrated in the hands of the big shots, they find everything going well. Everything is normal. But the moment you are taking from them, when government is sincere and fair and open without biases, such a government is expected would take from the very rich to give the downtrodden. We expect that in situations like the one we have ourselves now in this country, somehow government should be able to come up with policies that will ensure that petrol as produced by the Dangote refinery is carried out in such a way that it will, be pumped to the consumers at rock bottom prices. Rock bottom prices. How does it do that? It is supposed to say whatever that has gone into the production, of petrol in the Dangote refinery, must have been monitored by government seriously, so that it can use that as a bargaining chip to have petrol in very, cheap order, and then it will come to the public in really very cheap form, not to be the agent that will be putting costs, adding costs on the services that are being provided or the goods that are being provided. If anything, we expect that the moment if Dangote, for example, is at 750 naira, for example, we expect that by the time this fuel gets to the common people, certain aspects would have been used, certain decisions, certain regulations would have been used, certain policies would have been used to ensure that it gets to the common man at a cheaper price than it is even being released. How will it do that? Maybe to say that, okay, we will shoulder cost of transportation, we will shoulder cost of this, we will shoulder cost of that from the side of government, so that somehow it gets to the consumer at cheaper rate. Or you can find a way of even transferring the cost to other people, to other agencies. to other groups. You know, there are many ways. In fact, the government can use in order to ensure that um, the redistribution of goods and services are carried out to the latter and to the advantage of the common people. So this,
So,
to my mind,
sorry. Yes.
yes,
So you
yes,
see, talking about this oil industry, sir. You know what?
yes,
What a lot of Nigerians had expected that with the coming of this government, there's been a lot of noise in respect of this fuel subsidy scam that has been going on for long. And one would have expected that one of the biggest moves that this government would have gone into was to look at. You said that's why I tend to agree with Dr. Matthias when he said Nigeria is a scam. We expected that this government would have looked into this aspect of fuel subsidy scam that has been going on for long, but because a lot of them have been involved in this fuel subsidy scam, they will not go in that direction by way of investigating what happened. Some recoveries would have been made. Then currently there's a discussion going on right now in the social media. They keep talking about fuel, whereas there are other products that are derivable from 1 barrel of crude oil. The story of Nigeria's crude being taken to Malta and refined and nobody talks about the other byproducts. Who is it that takes those byproducts? Ranging from the aviation fuel, to kerosene and diesel and others. But the consultation, they just be talking about fuel. What are the other benefits that we get when those items are refined in Malta? How do they get back? What happens to the other product? But this persistent increment has been on fuel, and nobody wants to face it and resolve the matter. Like you said, there are certain steps that would have been taken that ideally fuel would have even been brought back to Nigerians at a much cheaper, cost per liter. But that's not what we're seeing.
yes.
They don't want to confront the problem because they are
and that is
all
the reason.
partakers. Putting a dividing line now between their own interests and national interests now in terms of this posture of redistribution policy it's just not. They don't want to go in that direction. Sadly, so sir.
So sadly, indeed. In fact, you don't even need to talk about the Malta whatever. Even with the Dangote refineries, the same refinery produces diesel. It produces other things, including fertilizer. We
Yes.
still buy fertilizer at very high cost when the same refinery of Dangote produces fertilizer for other countries. Go to that refinery. I have somebody that visited the refinery recently and told me what was astonishing about that refinery was the very gigantic, fertilizer plant and that load fertilizer on daily basis out of this country. From
Yes,
that.
they ship it to Brazil and other countries, urea in particular.
So if particularly we know about this, why can't we factor some of these things? Why can't we factor some of this cost into the general production so that eventually we do not, look at petrol as the only ultimate whatever gain from, a refinery, and then come down, look at it and say that you can give us this petrol at far cheaper rate than what you are giving us. If we look at what you are getting from the crude we are giving you. You see, these are ways that we expect a listening government, a fair government, a government that wants to be fair to its own people should behave, so that that government will be out to protect its own people and ensure that people do not suffer unduly. And mark you, what we have said here is a case of taking from people from point of saturation to point of dispersal.
Ours is the opposite.
Yes. Yes. Where we want a situation where it is taken from point of
dispersal to point of concentration. To point of
Yes,
saturation.
now we are taking it. We are taking from the ferry to the center now.
That is exactly what. Look at the Port Harcourt refinery that they said is supposed to start working and producing. They have shifted the date up to September. Now we're in October. No production has started.
They will still shift it. Write it. It will still be shifted.
Anytime we're discussing Nigeria, I get some level of headaches.
Well, and that is where we belong. Whatever we are studying, we have to do so with the idea of solving Nigeria's problem. So why we are discussing it in this manner is for us to appreciate it the way it is, and then see whether there are ways by which we can at least make, we can suggest ways to make it better. In the subsequent classes, when you will be writing your paper, we will also listen to your proposals as to how to deal with these issues, some of these issues. Then we appreciate your thinking about most of the issues. That way, we will be in a position to say that we are contributing to knowledge, we are contributing to ideas as to how to resolve societal issues. I think
thanks for the
that
encouragement, sir.
Yes, you always be resourceful as well. So, any other question? Any question?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, Prof. I've not really gotten the direct definition or this explanation of redistributive public policy.
Okay. We are referring to redistributive public policy to refer to the transfer of resources from one group to another group. Hello, are you following me?
Yes. Cutting it, sir.
Did you taking it from one group to another group? Like, as in taking it from the rich and giving.
Okay.
The poor.
Okay, sir.
So that in that way, we ensure that there is balance or there is equity in the society. Okay. So that the gap between the rich and the poor can be at least narrowed small. So that the remaining will not, so that the remaining of us will not be made to look like servants or slaves.
Okay.
In the hands of the rich. The way it is looking these days. Okay. So we expect that it is those from the rich that will be taken to give the poor, not to take from the poor to go and give the rich. That is the redistributive policies.
Okay.
We expect the distribution policies, redistributive policies from government to be progressive in such a way that it takes care of the lower strata of the society, lower of the community, so that the poor will be the ones benefiting. But if the reverse is the case, as we are always seeing these days in this country. The situation is that you see us crying. That is why Nigerians are crying today. Clearly, that is the reason. Because the little that they are having are being taken and given to those that are already having it. You know?
Yes.
I can see Stella's hand up. Please. Yes, Stella.
Sir. Sir, good morning, sir.
Yes. Good morning.
Please, sir, I want to know, is there any relationship or close relationship between the regulatory policy and that of redistributive?
Yes, the regulatory policy, there may not be direct relationship because that of the regulation is just to control the activities.
Yes, sir.
But in this redistributive, it's just to control the activities of different sectors providing services. But
Okay.
in the case of redistribution, it's a deliberate effort by government to ensure balance.
Okay, sir.
Although you can say yes, both of them tend to be controlling for the good of the people.
Okay.
I hope you are getting the point. Because regulatory policies, it is also trying to say that you should not shortchange our people. Or that the kind of services that you are giving to the people shall be the services that are approved, that are accepted. I hope you get the point.
Yes, I do, sir.
And then at reasonable cost, at accepted cost. But in the case of redistribution, it's like taking it directly from a group and spreading or giving it to the other group.
Okay, sir. Whether they like it or not.
Well, not necessarily whether they like it or not. But it's a rule to ensure balance. And usually this situation comes with an appeal.
Okay, sir.
And an understanding of all those that are involved.
Yes, sir.
I hope you get the point.
Yes, I do, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Okay.
Those that are involved are made to understand that it is progressive, that it is a situation that ensures the progressive nature of the society to do so, to move resources from the point of concentration to the point of dispersal.
Okay.
So that it is through that you can now say that you are not only ensuring balance, but also trying to reduce the gap that exists between those that have and those that do not have.
Okay. Okay.
So that way it is. But again, there can be negative redistribution.
Okay.
Like the ones we are complaining about now, that where we are being made to expend the little resources, people are being made to expend the little resources to acquire certain services at very high cost. You know, that is a situation where the resources get back to agents of production, you know, as against to the people.
Okay. Thank you, Prof.
Yes,
sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, no.
So I want to cite an example of a negative redistribution that we have experienced in the the government of President Buhari. We noticed a situation whereby a regulatory body like CBN, their mandates are very clear and as a regulatory body for the financial sector. But we noticed a situation whereby CBN had her hands in virtually every policy of government, whether it is agriculture or industry or the other. A particular example I want to mention that is actually supposed to be carrying a semblance of redistributive policy is the Anchor Borrowers Program. If you recall, sir, CBN took billions, in fact, trillions of naira under the disguise of trying to help the agricultural sector, through this Anchor Borrower program where they are targeting peasant farmers. But that thing ended up in a colossal loss, whereby up to now they have not been able to recover those monies because CBN in the first place was not even supposed to have gone into that policy in the first place. Because there are agencies of government like the Bank of Agriculture that rightfully supposed to have been doing that. CBN hijacked that policy from them, and the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and was administering those trillions. In the end, we didn't see any meaningful production in agriculture. They came and lied to us about some rice pyramid along the airport road, expecting that the prices of bags of rice would have gone down drastically for people to be able to afford. So they found they dabbled into some kind of redistributive approaches in governance, but it was a total failure. So sometimes government will set up policies, then the regulatory framework, those that are meant to regulate, certain policies end up finding themselves out of the regulatory framework and policies themselves and abuse the whole process. And then this is where we are. So I think, yes, it is kind of fluid. That was why I tend to agree with you when you say there are negative redistributive policies. And this, in my opinion, is a classical example.
In fact, when I was referring to negative redistribution, I am not referring to something like the anchor borrower. You see, because the anchor borrower actually was conceived with the thought that it can be taken from the resources from the banks to, help feed the country. Yeah, to also help the poor people out there. So you can see that it is a progressive decision, but has been hijacked. You use the right word. Has been hijacked by people in government. So it is a faulty. You can say it is a faulty redistributive process, but not negative. It's not negative as such. But where it is negative is where you can see clearly that people are the ones taking resources back to the rich. Resources are moving from the poor to the rich. In that case, it becomes a negative. And where the policy did not help it to be the reverse, rather it is going that way, then that policy has become a negative redistributive policy. That is my
because I believe that the rightful agency that would have handled that anchor borrowers program would have been the Bank of Agriculture. They didn't strengthen the Bank of Agriculture to carry out that function.
The Bank of yes, Bank of Agriculture would have done very well there. And
when they hold them accountable for the funds, but they bypassed the Bank of Agriculture and went into handling it themselves.
In fact, they would have even used microfinance banks to handle some of these things.
You're right,
yes, the banks that are in the rural areas, the banks that are touching the people, so that actually people involved in the activities of agriculture can directly, be involved in doing benefit from this.
Thank you, sir.
So these are the situations. Any other questions? If there are none, actually, I wanted to take us through policy formulation, the policy process. The policy process is characterized by policy formulation, policy implementation, and policy evaluation. In the formulation of it, we tend to want to look at who is making this policy. Who is involved? Are they the policy makers themselves? That is the I mean, those in politics, or are they those in administration? You know, because oftentimes you tend to be finding conflict between these two. Perhaps until recently, we have always had very strong hands of policy administration in policies. But in today's democracy, we can say that policy formulation is, the focus of what the legislature does. The executive and the legislature, the executive arm, I mean the political class generally, are involved in making policies so that the National Assembly accepts bills from the executive that goes there as what? As executive bill, or they emanate from the House as what? As House bills. And these are the things that are being churned out. They go in there, they are debated, and upon the debate and the various committees, and of course, other activities of the House, such as public hearings, uh, uh, such policies get to go into serious debates, serious contentions with stakeholders making input, before eventually such becomes laws. And once they have become laws, they have become policies. And in the process, they now it gets the moment it gets the assent of the president, it becomes a law, and then it is brought out as something that has been produced from the level of um, the those in policy. So this perhaps is the area, the angle that tend to settle the dichotomy crisis, dichotomy between the politics and administration, because here politics tend to present itself as those involved in making the policy, and then administration, restricting, keeping it at the level of implementation. So at the level of implementation, those in public administration, those in administration study the policies very well and begin to commit into implementing them. Of course, we have forgotten to state that the policy formulation processes does not indicate that goes through various stages, such as identification of the problem, developing alternatives as to how such problems can be resolved or can be solved, and then doing item by item analysis of the alternatives, so that we can find the best, the most suitable alternative and then, of course, selecting the alternative and then the eventual policy choice. It is through the debates, it's through the engagement, stakeholder engagement, and all those things that occur in the National Assembly that we eventually come up with the preferred policy choice, at the end of the day. At the policy implementation stage, the administrative class, find itself at the position to implement. And in implementing, the policy itself needs to be properly understood, to ensure that there is clarity. Because if you don't understand the policy, there are high tendencies that it can be misapplied. So the clarity of the policy and the specificity to what specific objective does the policy wants to achieve, all these things are very essential in ensuring that the policies are made good. So if we understand that, then we should also move forward to understand that for every policy, there must be an implementing agency. That we must try to understand clearly, that the implementing agency of every policy must be clearly given, or must be clearly stated. And then whether such organization has the wherewithal to implement the policy. That is, whether it has the capacity, it has the institutional capacity to implement the policy. And where that is lacking, of course, the necessary capacity is required to be built. By way of what? By way of training, training of the staff, in order for the staff in such an organization to gain the technical competence that is required to be able to implement the policy. Having said that, we can also now look at the target group. Who are the target group that this policy is about to affect? That is equally very necessary to identify. That the policy implementers must clearly know for whom are this policy meant to, address, and then what might be the implication. In fact, even before that, you should know the people that you are targeting. You should know everything about them. That is their history, their story. Have they ever enjoyed that kind of policies before, or is it the first time they are enjoying it? Do they need to be put through some forms of awareness? All these things are necessary. So the people for whom such a policy is being made must be taken into account, you know, and then we do whether such a people have an organized leadership through whom you can pass certain messages, through whom you know, certain issues can be presented. You know, all these are very key in the course of implementing a policy. And then, of course, lastly, we must also appreciate the environment. See, the environment within which such policy is being made must be taken into consideration, because there may be certain very salient requirement, you know, that could, you know, make or mar the success of the policies. So if we are taking interest on some of these things, we will be able to now understand the focus of the policy, so that we ensure that no gap is left, you know, in the course of the implementation of the policy. So it is actually very good to understand the environment of the policy itself, so that if there are other little requirements that we need to fulfill before we allowed the policy to flow, then we can look at that. So this is all it is about the implementation. Any question about this so far? Hello? Hello? Any question?
Yes, sir. Hello,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. Yes, Matthias.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to find out. We are talking of regulatory policies and all that. First, what role does ethics and morals play in managing these policies? And then secondly, do our leaders really care about those they are ruling?
Well, we have actually left the issues of regulatory policies, the types of policies, but maybe let me just make, because we're already dealing with policy implementation already, the policy making process.
Yes.
And we have taken the formulation and we're into the implementation, and we're about to take the last aspect, which is the evaluation stage. But let us quickly make a comment about what you have just said. The ethics really matter, and moral issues really matter in making policies. There are some of these things have their standards. Some of the policies, depending on the sectors, I hope you get the point. Depending on the sectors that you are trying to make policy for, depending on the environment that you are trying to do the policy for, there are certain unique requirements in terms of ethics. There are standard ethics for each of the, you know, societies, each of the groups, you know, that people need to respect, that we need to respect generally, you know, and that it is when we are carrying out such policies, we will have to have such at the back of our mind. So the formulators of the policies will have to integrate these ethics into the formulation process. I hope you understand.
Yes, sir.
Issues having to do with the environment of the people, issues having to do with the people themselves, issues having to do with how to, you know, accommodate other people's views. Issues having to do with the weak in the society, issues having to do with gender matters, historical matters, religious matters. All these things are things that are embedded in matters of ethics, and that we have to respect some of these things. Certain traditional historical issues are also contained in the ethics, so that people who have common traditions and cultures need to be respected. In making policies, you have to respect their traditions, you have to respect their customs, so that, for example, if you want to do mass housing to a group of people, you cannot just go into a field, start your business because you think that government owns everything. If you ask questions, you might be told that, oh, that place that you want to construct this thing is actually the community's shrine. If it is the community's shrine, you see, you have to seek the position of the elders. You have to ask, and then they will have to. Maybe you might be asked to do one or two things to appease the gods before that land can be taken away. So these are the things that are involved in the matters of ethics, and several other things. I just gave one example. I hope you get the point.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. In the evaluation process, the policymakers or the policy implementers could decide, or the state or the policymaker could decide to create an evaluation outfit that will tend to evaluate the policy. Usually, there will be committees set up to assess, and basically what we'll be looking out for is performance measurement, comparing output, against the results, and then, of course, checking whether there are deviations or inadequacies. These three critical things are what will be considered in policy assessment, that is policy evaluation. That is to check the extent to which the policy has performed. How many people has it impacted on? Has it reduced suffering, or has it added suffering? All these things need to be checked and assessed. And then usually experts are supposed to be engaged in order to do this kind of stage, so that they will tell whether this angle are actually being well implemented, whether the performance have met the desired standard, and whether what has been put into the policy in terms of output produces the desired results. And then lastly, to check whether there are certain deviations in the results. I hope you get the point. Hello, I hope all of you are with me. Are you all with me?
Yes, sir. We are with you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we are with you.
Yes, so the evaluation process, as I said, three key areas. Number one, to do performance measurement. Number two, to put output against result. Number three, to check for deviations. check whether there are deviations in the policy output. So these are the three critical requirements in evaluating a policy. So I said that usually this angle is usually staffed by experts. It is experts that we require to do this evaluation. Set up a committee of experts who will now go to the field and check and see whether this policy is working well. And then it will be their duty to now elicit responses, get feedback from those whom the policies were made to serve, and then to see whether actually the policy actually served such interest or not. So this is the actual focus of the evaluation. So any questions so far? Hello? Stella?
Sir, please, I want to be clearer, because you mentioned of the salient features that can make or mar the implementation of the policy. Yeah. So, can I take it that those features are built in the ethics and the values, like not involving older? Okay. The
yes, that is exactly the issue.
Okay.
Poor sensitization. And then just like the example I just gave now.
Yes.
Where somebody, if you want to do mass housing for the people, and then you went and got to a field not knowing that actually there is a shrine.
Yes.
So you need to consider that environment, that salient issue, that historical issue, those cultural issues. I think that we require some of these things to correct.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, Matthias.
Sir, the three things you mentioned for policy evaluation, I didn't get them well, sir. You talked about performance measurement, yes, sir.
Performance measurement.
Yes, sir.
Then I think there is putting output against result.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
That is two.
Yes, sir.
And then lastly, whether deviations are occurring.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Whether there are deviations.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Well done. So these are the critical aspects. Yes, Eze.
Sir, please, I want to be guided well all the more for this putting output against result, because I see output as the same as result.
Okay, sorry. Okay, if we say output, you may want us to use input rather. Is it?
I just want to be guided, sir. I want to understand it.
If we are saying output, we are saying what has come out of the policy. What has come out of the policy. That is what has gone into the society.
Okay.
What has gone into the society in terms of, but you can say they are input. If you say input, it means in terms of cost. So it may not necessarily be cost, because for public policies, until recently, where government is now trying to make profit from some of the activities, or else we can say that It is just the output, that is what is given out, not necessarily the cost of it. Because the moment you bring in input, then you are bringing in costing. I hope you get the point.
Yes, I get it right now, sir. That means what the policy
has brought out
against the results that it has generated.
Yeah.
How the society feel. Okay. Get it, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Any other? Yes.
Hello, sir. I
Hello,
think I'll thank you for giving us a recap of one of the courses we had in our first semester. This is a compressed and abridged version of public policy evaluation analysis that we had last semester.
Okay.
So thank you so much, sir. I would want to believe that Nigeria has, for some years, had a policy on fuel subsidy up to when President Buhari left. I am not too sure if President Tinubu had the time to come up with a policy that is good, that we're supposed to be referring to it as policy, fuel subsidy removal as a policy. I'm aware of the existence of that, of policy implementation or policy payment, but policy removal, fuel subsidy removal, I'm not too sure if there's any policy like that, in the sense that if there were one, I expected that this policy evaluation that you have mentioned now, I remember we were taught that, yes, for the best effective performance of a policy, are you with me, sir?
Hello, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
It is recommended that for a policy to be very effective, there should be a mechanism of policy evaluation, possibly even from the onset.
Yes.
Because if there were truly a policy by this government on fuel subsidy removal, which is different from the fuel subsidy payment or implementation that they're doing before he took over, then there would have been need for them to know that this policy is not working, and there was need for it to be reviewed or reversed or adjusted. But we seem to be going in a direction because I think there's just no documented policy on fuel subsidy removal in this country. I stand to be corrected, sir.
Well, that's a view, and for me, we still have been saying that some of the decision about fuel subsidy removal, oil subsidy removal, is an impulsive thing that was made at the point of handing over. And what we expected in the days coming ahead was for the government to properly articulate what was contained in the president's address, into a full-fledged policy, so that its impact can be assuaged as much as possible. We should, it is when there is a clear path of the policy that you can see whether, number one, the idea of removal is even required. Whether, number one, we needed to assess to see whether the existing payments, were paying off or not. And then we should also be able to see whether, if they were not paying off, is it the removal that will make it, address the yearnings of the people? Will it lead to lower costs of the commodity, or will it lead to higher cost of the commodity? And if it leads to higher cost of the commodity, what will it be? What will be the ripple effect of it on the economy? All these
Other
things,
goods and
and
services,
then
yes.
who will be benefiting? How can we how can we work to mitigate such a ripple effect? How quickly can this be addressed so that it does not run the country's economy aground? You know, all these things are things that would have been, done thoughtfully and carefully and scientifically, so that we ensure that we do not, run in distinction of what is required, what we need to provide. So it is actually the issue that worries us now. Unfortunately, we are already being confronted with the policy, and we 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 we, we don't know whether it has been done thoughtfully and whether it was actually analyzed as this, as I have just explained. And then, of course, the Nigerian environment should have been analyzed properly to be able to bring out this. God knows, only God knows how many people might have been impacted negatively with this policy that we are just concluding now.
So you see,
Well,
there's one angle. There's one angle that you hold on to that if there was no budgetary provision for payment of subsidy to the end of last year. And I was wondering if they had taught it well, there would have been nothing wrong to say, okay, do a supplementary budget that would have run the country probably to the end of December, while you concentrate on fixing your Port Harcourt refinery and encouraging the Dangote refinery to complete its own. Then you can now say, okay, with these ones now having come on stream, then we can now begin to look at, if there's need for any
the idea
budgetary
of
provision. But right from the one, that pronouncement was made. Your local production has not taken up, the Dangote refinery has not taken up, and then you just made that removal, and then you have this ripple effect on every good and services in the country, and the country is worse for it. Like you said, sir, it wasn't really thought out well, and it's highly regrettable. Highly regrettable.
It's really regrettable. Actually regrettable. I think it was quite impulsive, as I said. And it's sad that we have to go through this ourselves. In any case, we'll continue to talk about it. Maybe the government is coming up with remedial measures to, to overcome the situations. Already they are talking about, even his speech today mentioned about the CNG issues. Eh? And
yes, I
others.
had it. I had it. I had it. But it's just like putting the cart before the horse.
The horse, yes. Okay. So thank you very much. Eze, you want to say something?
Yes, I want to say something, sir, because tomorrow, yes, sir, you make a very wonderful remark on policy and what is leading to high costs so that we will not run the country down. But I'm seeing that the country, this particular government have actually made only two policies that is out. One is the removal of fuel subsidy. The second one is the increment of minimum wage.
Minimum wage.
Yes, that is the only two things I've seen them done. But both of them are inimical from my view, are inimical to the growth of our country. One is that people sees this minimum wage of 70,000 naira as the salary that people will earn. Most of the people will ask how much is bag of rice. But I've thought it out. I've thought it out that this minimum wage that they are talking about is the lowest wage that one can earn at a particular level, at a particular step, the minimum. So I begin to think, how much will a professor like you be earning? Because when they say how much is a bag of rice, we are not asking how much will professors be earning. How much will consultants in the medical profession be earning? How much can Nigeria run this? Because I see like, sorry, you're a professor, and I'm using professor. Now professors may be earning about over 3 million a month. And
if you are using the yardstick of the minimum wage, you are using the percentage of minimum wage, cool?
Yes, the increment, the 300% increment, without asking if Nigeria will be able to carry the weight of this increment. Because when you consider the workforce of Nigeria and put this minimum wage all together, I'm talking about, is a policy that they have thought after and set out. That these things have not been well thought or checked. How will Nigeria be run with this? Because if we have policymakers, just as I asked earlier, I asked what is output against results? They have not think of the results. They are thinking of the outputs. They didn't think of the check for deviation. Because these two things in policy evaluation are cardinal. They have only considered performance measurements. They forget the output against results. They forget the check for deviation, in which are the two cardinal things that one should think or look into before setting out a policy. And I see it as, with my own English, that they are not properly policynized to roll it out for us. Now, look at what we are suffering from the fuel subsidy. Because professionals like us, the policymakers in governance, have not been engaged so that when we are rolling out these stages, we can come at the end of the policy, think of the evaluation, and check these two things, output against results, and check for the deviation in which we, with these policies, we actually bring to Nigeria. And I want to ask, can Nigeria, because I will stand to watch, can Nigeria be able to carry the weight of this minimum wage, sir?
Well, we don't know. As a matter of fact, the yardstick, Labour made its own calculation. So is the government making its own. It made its own calculation as well. And I thought that what Labour was asking for was actually something much more higher than what the government gave. So for government to settle at that level, and then for the, what do you call them, labor to accept that, it meant that the entire thing is implementable. The only thing is that government could come up with something that, like I am made to understand, the 70,000 that you are looking at, bearing in mind the percentage increase that you saw, is not the exact percentage that goes like that right up the ladder. I hope, Eze, you are following me.
I'm hearing you, sir.
It is not like that. Unfortunately, for some of us as professors, I'm not sure we are likely to gain up to 10% increase.
Really, as professors, you get 10%? Wow.
Find out. Check from this salaries and wages template.
Okay.
Check. And let's talk about it in next class. Check.
Okay.
I'll check, sir.
Please do your check. Do your check and let us talk about it.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
You can see that is the kind of country we are in. As if and you know that in Nigerian public universities, no professor can beat his chest and say that he earns more than 450,000. You know, irrespective of what is his responsibility and whatever he's carrying. You know, except where
that is really sad.
Except that is except where such a professor is a vice chancellor. That is a different thing altogether.
That's really sad.
So, I think it's an interesting class. We had good discussions on these policy matters.
Okay.
I'm sure somehow we have benefited. So next class, we might be looking at other angles so that we could come up with other issues in politics.
Okay, Prof. I think no lecture on Saturday.
Saturday, let me see. Well, I'll talk to John.
So that we can utilize it if we don't have lecture, so that we will know.
Okay, I'll talk to John before then.
Okay.